Good afternoon, family, or good morning or good evening, wherever you are joining us from in the world. My name is Angela Asante-Armar, and today you are welcome to join us on a series of live discussions on female genital mutilation and its harmful effects. This is the third of a series, if you like, of these discussions where myself and my wonderful panel members here who I'll introduce you to are taking time out to just spread knowledge, information, and awareness of this rather, there's no rather about it, this harmful, barbaric practice that affects girls and women. And actually, it affects society at large, but we can speak about that as well. So, streaming live from Ghana on today, the GPAN Queens Facebook page, and also the United States of Africa YouTube channel. Please subscribe if you are there, and also the Power to Our Mothers Foundation Facebook page. So you are welcome. As you're coming in, please do drop a comment and let us know where you're joining us from. So I am joined here by two queens. We have Sister Yeama, Susan Mansaray, and Sister Najar Nyakio. So we're in the UK, Ghana, and Kenya today. Welcome, queens.
Thank you. Welcome. Hi, everyone.
Can you hear us, Queen Najar?
Yes, I think I can. I can hear you clearly. I don't know if you can hear me.
We can hear you well. My sound has been playing up, so yes. So today, what are we talking about? Today we are talking about giving birth after after undergoing the female genital mutilation practice. Last week, Sister Najar had touched upon some of the effects of that. It was an introduction, and apologies that we are not joined by Sister Maryam Sheikh today. She will come back and join us next week because she does have a powerful story to share with us of her own story of having undergone this practice. But today, what we want to have the discussion about is what undergoing this practice actually means for women who try to and or are successful in giving birth. So I think I'll open up the floor first to Sister Yeama. Please, if you like, reintroduce yourself for some of the members who have not met you yet. And then what is your experience of the difficulties that women go through having birth, or sorry, giving birth, those of them who have been through this practice?
Thank you very much, Queen Angela. And hello, everyone, again. Thank you so much for joining us wherever you are. My name is Susan Yeama Mansaray. I am based here in the United Kingdom, and I have an organization that I set up here 9 years ago called Purple Rose Health and Wellbeing. And the whole idea of me setting up that organization was to really campaign against the practice of FGM, which is so much happening here in the UK, because, you know, normally people will think, oh, well, you know, it's an African thing. And that's what a lot of times people used to perceive, that it's an African thing, it's an African practice. But we all know, and so many people out there know, even if you didn't know, that it's not Africans only who practice FGM, because that was the belief. So it was on those bases that I set up Purple Rose, because I realized that even here in the UK, women migrated from all over the world. They find themselves here in the UK, and especially where I am as well in the Northeast. And people have brought along that traditions with them. They've carried it like a handbag. And so what we saw was women traveling back to their home countries and having their children mutilated, because it's illegal here in the United Kingdom. So women then travel abroad. So it was on those bases that I set up this organization to basically raise awareness, because what I found out was, having been a journalist in my home country where I am from, campaigning against this I realized that people were coming into the UK. They didn't know that one, it's illegal, and they didn't also know the consequences of FGM. And that was another thing, because when you're in Africa or wherever parts of the world you are in, it's tradition, it's culture for these people. So nobody says to you, oh, actually, don't do this. It's bad for your daughter. It's bad for your health, because some of these mothers have gone through it and they've survived it. They're living with the consequence of it. And as a result, they don't see any reason why their children shouldn't follow that path of line as well. So in raising awareness about it, in educating people about FGM, it then gave them the opportunity to realize that, oh my God, it is dangerous. No wonder I'm suffering from this. I have seen so many women in all my years, over 20 years of campaigning against women, even here in the UK, where women have said, I didn't realize that I am going through all these issues, health issues that I'm having now. I did not make the connection that it was because of this FGM that I have been through. But now I know, and I'm going to protect my children from it. So it's all about education and what we're doing. So that's what I've been doing. And in terms of your question, Queen Angela, I think it's a shame that we haven't got our other Queen Maryam here, but I'm sure she'll be here next week at some point, because I personally did not go through FGM. My mother went through FGM at the age of 7. And also having lost a friend of mine at the age of 9 going to 10 from FGM, it just made me, very, aware of it, and I was interested in it. And, these are some of the reasons why I went into the journalism route and became a journalist, because I was so much interested, like, why is this happening? If children are dying from this practice, why are mothers still doing it? So I cannot explain from my experience, because although I have children, I'm a mother, I have 3 beautiful children, but I have not gone through FGM to say this is the experience. But what I do know from working with women who have had FGM, from supporting women who have had FGM, is this, and that is there's so many difficulties, and I'm sure my queen sister here is going to elaborate on that a little bit more. But the difficulty that women undergo, I have seen it firsthand. It's traumatic. It really is, because you can just imagine, as the human body, whatever part is there has its purpose. That's what I believe. And so to have that removed, you would have caused a lot of damage. So you can imagine here, I always say to people, picture here in the UK, women face a lot of difficulty when they have undergone FGM in delivering a baby. So can you imagine, picture that scenario in Africa, in other parts where the health facility is not that good. And it is no wonder, where we see so many women dying through childbirth. So many women die when they go to have a baby. And sadly, in the continent where I come from, Africa, people just see that, oh, it's bad luck, oh, I'm so sorry, oh, she died when she went to have a baby, without thinking, what is the cause of that woman dying? There's no such thing, where I am from, and I'm sure in other parts of Africa, where a woman dies having a baby, and they have to investigate to see what happened. We don't have that kind of facility. But if we did, we would see that there's a connection between that woman having had FGM done and then having a baby and then end up dying, because there's a lot of complications, bleeding, tetanus, so many things that relates to it, which in the countries where it is practiced, apart from the UK here, they don't see that. Whereas here, we educate women, we try to say to them, these are the dangers, because we see it. In the UK, they make documentaries about it to educate women. So that is my view that I will say, because personally, I have not experienced it firsthand to be able to say this is what it felt like. But from my campaigning, that is what I can say.
Thank you so much, Queen Yeama. And apologies if you can hear any echo on my part.
Okay.
Sister Najar, I'm just picking up a question before we move on to Sister Najar from Mr. Pope, asking us if any of us had our children cut, or have we all broken the chain or intend to. My very simple question is, my very simple answer is no. I've not undergone the practice. I have two boys. They have not been so obviously they've not had female circumcision. They have been circumcised in a medical or health facility. Yes, that they did do when they were babies, as is the norm in our area, I would say. I will leave the sisters to answer for themselves.
What I will say is, obviously, I have no intention. I have campaigned against this for so many years, and when my mother went through it, and then she said we will never go through it, and also I've been against it. So I have two daughters. And I have no intention for them to have FGM done, and I am against anyone who wants to take their child to have it done, because it's just plain abuse, and we should not be having it done on children.
Thank you, Sister Yeama. Welcome to Sister Josephine. Before we come on to Sister Josephine, Queen Najar, would you please just briefly reintroduce yourself? I mean, I would reintroduce you. Queen Najar is a land activist, environmentalist, and advocate for the African womb man, as in men with wombs, us, the women. So Queen Najar, what is your experience of or knowledge of, because you have such great historical knowledge of the effects that women go through, experience as a result of having undergone female genital mutilation?
Can you hear me? I do not have any personal experience. No, I do not have personal experience. My experience is historical experience, research experience, scientific experience, and what I have observed. But personal, no, I have not undergone the cut.
Okay, and continuing on that theme, what have you discovered and learned about, this is really just following up on what you had introduced us to last week, but for those who were not here last week, what have you learned about the effects of this barbaric practice on a woman's ability to give birth?
When I first found out about FGM, I went back historically to learn about it. I traced its roots. And the roots are in slavery. I think this is important for us to understand and to put in our heads so that we get it. We are often told that we have a culture. Yes, it is a culture, and it is about 2,030 years old, give or take 20 years or so. Okay, so it's over 2,000 years old, this culture. And the culture came about because the Romans needed slaves. They used to get their slaves from Europe. And we have this movie, I think we've all heard about Spartacus. Raise your hands if you have. I never really put two and two together. We don't put two and two together because we're not told this. Yeah. So we watch Spartacus without understanding the historical context. So the movie Spartacus is about a Thracian slave. Thracian is a Greek. I don't know why they keep using different names. Maybe it's so that we can get confused. So this Thracian slave led what is called a slave uprising. And I was like, wait a minute. I've heard about slave uprisings in America and Black slaves uprising. But what is this about Caucasian slave uprising? So what I learned from it is that because of the slave uprisings, because it wasn't one, there were quite a number, the government of Rome had to stop warring on the rest of Europe in order to contain itself. And when it did that, they stopped getting slaves. And the people, the Roman citizens, were furious. They were like, hey guys, we need slaves. So what did the Roman government do? They went south. First, they went east. They went all the way to China, and that's where they got slaves. But it was a bit far. So they decided to get their slaves from China, from Africa. And what they would do to the adult Chinese, because it started with adult Chinese men, is that they would cut off their genitals. And this is called castration. Because the Romans have this culture where they would have sex with anyone. Okay? We all know this. We just don't absorb it. Okay? We don't absorb it, but we know this. So what happened is that women would have unwanted progeny and they would kill them off. And this, the founder of Rome, put up a law, and the law was he allowed fathers to sell their children. Instead of throwing them to the dogs, sell your children. But like I said, this culture now, you know, the Spartacus and all, the white slaves were not having any of it, okay? So now they went to China, and they started cutting off castrating the men. And then after some time, they found it was better to have slaves from Africa. So they got slaves from Africa. But again, the problem was that there were too many babies, okay? Yeah? And all these babies were black. You know, it's messing up. You know, these are unwanted babies. It messed up in two ways. Number one, I have given an example where the Emperor Claudius himself, this is an emperor, like, imagine President Obama. I want to put this into context. President Obama, his wife has an affair, she gets pregnant, and the president, as Obama, says, you know what, that baby, throw it away. This was what was going on. So there was a problem. And whoever came
Can anybody hear Sister
No.
Najar? Okay, I think she's frozen. Hopefully she will be back shortly. We had another question, but it's for Queen Najar. So when she comes back, hopefully we can answer that. Okay. Somebody was asking.
This is where
somebody was asking. Sorry, Mr. Pope was asking if female genital mutilation. Hello, Queen. Welcome back. I was. We had another question, but I don't know if you want to finish because the question is directed to you. So do you want to finish where you were and then we'll take the question?
Where did it cut off? Because I noticed that it cut off, but I wasn't quite sure where it cut off.
The last thing I heard, well, one of the last things I heard was where you just throw away the babies.
So what they began to do in Rome is that when they got the captives, when they got the female captives, what they would do is that they would stick brooches on them, on their clitoris. and close them like a sewing pin or something, so that nobody could have sex with them. Now, this isn't so bad, considering that they are the same people who came up with this idea of chastity belts.
I was just thinking that. That's what it reminds me of, the chastity belts, yes.
Okay, so the difference between the chastity belt and the sewing up the slaves was that the chastity belt, the husband had a lock and a key for his wife. Okay, but for the slaves, there was no lock and key. It was just stitch the thing up.
Wow.
Now, try and think about this in a now situation. Okay, so word traveled, and it traveled back down south, that girls and boys who were castrated fetched higher prices in the slave market, in the Roman slave market. And remember that Rome actually covered quite a bit of Africa. And I shared maps, which I didn't draw them. Those maps are there for everyone to see. So this is not something which I've made up. And this is not something which I've drawn. I've just collected all the information together and given it out. So what happened is that word got around that boys and girls who were castrated fetched higher prices at the auction block. Higher prices. Now, this started 2,000 years ago, so it's pretty hard to find out where it came from. That's why I keep saying we need to understand that castration of the male and the female is a slave mentality. We have to understand this. It's in our culture. It's been there for 2,000 years. But we have to understand that it is a slave mentality. Because what happens is that when you cut off the reproductive organs, what you're saying is that these children can never get children. If you cut off a boy's genital parts and he becomes a eunuch, he can never get children. When you castrate a female, like Yeama said, what happens? The woman has such trouble giving birth, and we get so many of our women dying when they're trying to give birth. So many. Yeah. And I don't think people understand the numbers. Because if I tell you that the numbers are every 5 women in 1, and you think about this, if we're 4 of us here, you add 1 other woman, and that means that 5 of us will die giving birth. And we're not putting this together with the fact that our clitoris has been chopped up, that we have been sewn up. So where's the baby supposed to pass through? Exactly. The other thing is this, that we have something which is called fistula. When you look at the diagram, because we're not allowed to do this, we're told, no, don't talk about down there, it's sacred, it's irreligious, it's immoral, it's all these lies, okay? So we're told all these lies, and we're told you're not even supposed to know what you look like, your own anatomy as a woman. You're not supposed to know your anatomy? What nonsense is that? So we don't even know. Women do not know where their bladders are in relation to their pregnancy. They don't know. They really do not know. Ask every 5th woman, if you ask her, where's your bladder in relation to your anatomy? And what happens if there is no vagina? Well, I'll tell you what happens. The baby pushes and 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 tears a wall through the bladder. And what fistula is this, that the urine collects in the vaginal canal. Now, we all know that urine doesn't smell so good. And we all know that urine can be acidic and urine can burn. So all this now goes and collects in the vaginal canal because there's a tear, because it's such a thin space. But we're not allowed to know this. No, don't talk about this. So what you have now is a hole that is knocked in the bladder, and your urine is seeping into your vaginal canal. And by the way, you're still stitched down there because after you give birth, they stitch you again. That's one. The second thing is this, and this is the part which just killed me, okay? 99.9% of husbands refuse their circumcised wives to have a C-section. They say that it's not a normal birth. So they refuse. They say no, they don't sign the papers. So what happens? Mother dies.
That is tragic. I'm still just processing what you said, that us already having identified and the woman having lived thus far with whatever effects she's had from having undergone female genital mutilation in the first place, that if she's lucky or if she's fortunate to birth a child and retain her life, then she's stitched up again. Is that what you said, Sister Najar? Because that I just...
Yep.
Wow. I'm speechless. I'm actually speechless. I was going to ask for anybody else, does that defy logic? But I'm conscious that I want to bring Sister Josephine into the conversation. Sister Josephine and Darius joins us today as a special guest, and Sister Josephine is the founder and director of, let's hope I pronounce this correct, Mukokodo Girls Empowerment Program in Kenya, and has been working at least for the last 4 years on advocating against what she calls retrogressive cultural practices in Kenya, including female genital mutilation and child marriage. So welcome, Sister Josephine. It's a pleasure to have you today.
Thank you. Hello, sisters.
Hello.
Hi. So I'm Josephine, and I think the topic is female genital mutilation. In our community, female genital mutilation is a passage of right, and almost every girl is subjected to female genital mutilation. And so in 2017, I carried out an advocacy with the elders wanting to know what was the genesis of FGM in our own, the Maasai culture. And I came to learn that it was only a crazy idea of a man who wanted to... Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, sister.
Yes, so that Maasai men used to go and raid cows in very far community that they can even go for 3 to 4 years. And when they go 3 to 4 years, when they come back, sometimes they find their wives or girlfriends pregnant by another man. So one of them thought of, what do I do next time I'm leaving? So what he did is that when he was planning to leave, he cut the woman clitoris. So he left her nursing the wound. Then he went, and when he came back, he comes near the wife, and the wife is not even interested. So he started spreading the news to the other men that if you want to go for 4 years and make sure you come when your wife, nobody has touched your wife, cut off the clitoris. So that was the genesis in the Maasai community. Unfortunately, as you can see, even educated men wanting to dominate women, they all come to agreement that that is what we should be doing. And you don't need to do it. We can even, so they put it into the cultural aspect that a girl should go through female genital mutilation at a certain age when she is ready for marriage. So, and that's how it started. So, a lot of girls had gone through FGM. And I think people are just trying to be slaves of their own culture, because I remember asking these elders, why did you subject your daughter to FGM? They're like, because my grandparents subjected their daughter. So you are just following a tradition that existed. But it took us a long time to educate the community the negative of female genital mutilation. And it was really a process, and I can't tell you people are abandoning the cat, but at least I look at it this way. It is a decision you need to make as a household. Like my daughters, I'm a mother of 4 daughters. These are my children. I will not subject them to female genital mutilation, not caring what the family or any other person will say. Because if you keep on sticking into the culture, then definitely you will end up subjecting daughters into the culture of being a woman in the name of for her to be marriageable. So in our community, it is changing, but we still have people who are subjecting their daughters to female genital mutilation until now. So they know, like, it's now in Kenya, and actually our president is anticipating to finish female genital mutilation by 2022, which is a very wrong dream, especially after this lockdown. We have had like a lot of girls being subjected. So it's really an issue that, to me, my opinion is that it's a personal decision. This is my daughter. I don't need to consult anybody whether to subject my daughter. It's my child. And even
Sister Josephine?
Sorry?
I was just checking. You broke away, but maybe only on my end. Please continue.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so what I'm saying is the way I see female genital mutilation is for people to make decision for the life of their children, not following the cultural aspect to subject our daughters or our children to a painful process like female genital mutilation. Because if you look at it in Kenya, everybody knows that it is against the law, but some people are doing it under the carpet. And I keep asking them, why do you need to do that? So that my daughter get a husband. For God's sake. So you look at it, the aspect. Yet, in our community, we have our brothers who have married a lot of women from other communities with no card, but they're happy. But they just want to dominate the daughters in the community. So it's an issue for me. I feel like it's a personal decision people to make. It's people to make the personal decision.
Thank you, Sister Josephine. There was a lot there. Yeah, it's interesting where all these stories come from. It is, it's interesting the different ways in which they are, or they seem to have been accepted into our culture. I'm conscious because I really want to take some of the questions that we're getting from the floor. So if you bear with me, I will take them out of turn. And this one, I think, can actually be addressed to all of us, even though it's addressed to Najar. So the question is, why are there no reports of women dying giving birth in UK or Europe, or indeed anywhere in the West, if anything like 1 in 5 women die? My response is, having spent the majority of my life in the UK, I'm sure the other ladies can also respond to this, given their research or personal knowledge. Statistically, it is shown that in the UK, Black women, African Black women in the UK are at least 5 times more likely to die through childbirth than white women or Caucasian women. That's statistically proven. There have been news features about it, and they continue to ask the question, why is that? That's probably a conversation for another time. But I wonder, Mr. Pope, if the reason you're asking that question is because you're trying to tie it together with perhaps there being reports specifically of women having undergoing female genital mutilation, then dying from childbirth. I'm not aware of that data. It could be out there, but I'm not aware of that data. But the data that is absolutely out there, it is that the increasing rate at which Black women die through childbirth compared to white women. Sister Yeama, if I come to you first, do you have any comments or response to that question?
Yes, I think what I can say, I totally support and agree with what you've just said there, Queen Angela, because we cannot actually say this is the statistics of women who have died as a result of childbirth, going through childbirth in the UK. But what I can say, obviously, it's different in other countries where, like we've said, 5 women can die as a result of going through childbearing. Whereas here in the UK, take a scenario where when I was pregnant, I am from Africa, I come from a continent where FGM is common, it's rampant, it's everywhere. I am originally from West Africa, Sierra Leone. It's part of our culture. And there you see a lot of women die, like Queen Najar just said there. A lot of women die and they still cannot make the connection to think, hang on, is this normal? Why are women dying? Nobody says that. Nobody questions that. Whereas here in the UK, for example, when I was pregnant with my first child, 3 of my children were born here in the UK. When I was pregnant with my first child, who is a girl, going through the pregnancy, I was asked by the doctors, midwives, whether I had FGM done. So I was being prepared during that time so that in a case where I had FGM done, they will know what to expect. They will know what to do if any situation arises. So the plan was there. So that is why when women are pregnant, you get asked whether you've had FGM done. It's so that, it doesn't just happen. For example, women who would have had type 3 infibulation where they are totally stitched up and they can't speak English to say, actually, there's nowhere the baby is going to come through. And then it's time for them to have a baby and their life and their baby's life is at risk. So they ask you, they prepare you, they put you in that position where you are then able to say yes or no. Then they know that this woman is not at risk, or this woman and her baby, they are going to be at risk. We need to watch them. We need to do ABC. So you can see why, even though they will have difficulty, even though the childbearing itself, the delivering of the baby itself, it's going to be a traumatic experience, maybe compared to someone who has never had FGM done. However, they will not die compared to somebody who lives in Africa, where I am from, where the medical facilities are not there, where electricity is not there, where there is never light. So they don't ever imagine that there's going to be an operation where electricity is there. Maybe there will even be an operation going on and the lights go out. And then that woman can die just because of that. So all the, you can see all the issues, all the difficulties that we have back in Africa and other areas, in the poverty-stricken areas. You can see all the issues that makes it very easy for women to die compared to women who would have had it but they're now living in the diaspora where there's more support, more help for them to go through childbearing.
Thank you so much, Yeama. That was insightful. And as you can see, to some of these things, there's no straight answer. There's so many, factors and issues to consider. So that is because I imagine of how the practice has evolved, the different stories, people move. We heard not last week, the week before, Sister Yeama shared with us that there had been a prosecution as a result of a 3-year-old having undergone female genital mutilation in the UK. And this is happening in Scotland, it's happening in Europe. So it's not something, I think, as the panel has already said, it's not something that is unique to Africa, unique to Asia, because if it is something that is believed to be an African cultural practice, inherited African cultural practice, and people that still exist believe that it's something that must be done, as Sister Josephine said, and it's actually revered or looked at as a rite of passage. Wherever people travel, and we do travel, they will take those practices with them. So we may not have the data, but after the show later today, I will share the presentation that Sister Najar, Queen Najar, delivered on the first episode of this series, so you can see the maps she was referring to, and especially the maps which show where slavery, the countries where that were affected by slavery from Rome, as in under Rome, and where the practices are today. Where the countries are today that practice female genital mutilation. So you yourself can see the analogy. Sister Josephine, is there anything that you can share about, this, this whole issue about being pregnant, perhaps having undergone female genital mutilation, or the girls that you've had to deal with who have been subject to this? Can everyone hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Sister Josephine, Queen Josephine, did you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, wonderful. I was just asking if you would like to share any of your experience, whether personal or dealing with women who, and their experience of undergoing, their experience of birth after having gone through female genital mutilation.
Hello, can you hear me now? Sorry, I think I had some disconnection.
Yes, sorry, there is connectivity issues on my side. Did you hear the question?
No, sorry.
I was asking if you are able or willing to share any experience you have of women, the difficulties women have of giving birth, and especially them dying after or giving birth because they have undergone female genital mutilation.
So yes, I have heard a lot about the difficulties in giving birth, because when somebody goes through female genital mutilation, a scar is left. So chances of these women having a tear are like 99% or 100. And actually, if you go to the hospital, the first thing the nurses who is attending you will check if you have been if you have gone through female genital mutilation, she will be very much prepared to do an episiotomy for you without even consulting you. Which to me, I look at it, it's like saving the mother and the child. And unfortunately, in rural communities, these girls are subjected to female genital mutilation. They are married off without no education. So they tend to say I'll not go to the hospital because they keep on cutting us, not knowing that they're being self. And if you look at it, like after 3 or 4 births, they're like, I'm not interested with having making love with my husband, and or the other side, the husband complain that she's not she's becoming baggy because she gets a tear at home, nobody makes it, repair it, second tear, third tear, and fourth tear, you can name it. But for her, she don't even know that. She don't even know that it is because of the the scar that she is experiencing all that. And this man end up getting a second wife or a third or a fourth. So I keep on telling these ladies, it is us to say no to anything that harms us. It is our life. Otherwise, the culture will never realize that it is harming us. But those who are at least informed or enlightened, if you go to the hospital, you go through the nurse will definitely do an episiotomy and repair it, and probably save both of you, the child and the baby. So it's really an issue that is affecting women, and sometimes we are in denial to face what is causing that, but that is the reality.
Wow.
Powerful word.
Yeah, no, I'm just taking in what you said about, having the first tear, the second tear, and what have you, and the women not actually knowing what it is, or the extent of the damage that is being done to them, even though they may feel that, their body doesn't feel like their body, it's somehow been, confirmed, let's just say, for the ones where it's rites of passage, it's been confirmed that, yes, this is what we do, whether they're told the reason why. So they're told that what is being done to them is right, yet within themselves, they feel that it's wrong. So they're going through the physical trauma and the pain. And what is so concerning to me about what you said is that it just reminds me of, like, internal bleeding, damage that's happening that people don't know about, so at what stage do they then find out that this is an issue? And no wonder then why so many of our women die in childbirth. Because if these things were known at the beginning, even if, let's just say, even if, and I personally would never advocate for girls or women, we'll come on to that, because women, even grown women, it seems, are now undergoing this practice. But I wouldn't advocate for that to happen. But where they are going, even if you knew and somehow you could mitigate, the damage, so that they're in a better position, that would be something better, as in, basically giving somebody a wound and leaving it unattended for like over 10 years, and then wonder why there's all this carnage, literally all this damage. That is, I'm re-emphasizing all of this for our listeners, because I know that whenever, for those who perhaps have heard much about female genital mutilation, it's human nature that we get desensitized to things. If you're used to seeing people dying, like you get to a point where, oh, it's another person that's died, it becomes like your norm, and you kind of disconnect yourself with the pain. But these things are happening, it seems, increasingly around the world. Some of that's in some places because of advocacy. It's great to see that perhaps they are actually reducing, but we need to talk about it. We have said in a number of the episodes that we need to be like direct, and specifically what I'm talking about, or Queen Najar, you're picking up about why they don't like us to use or even sound. And it's a shame that Sister Queen Maryam is not here to say about, talking about our, whatever God you serve, but I will say our God-given anatomy, vagina, penis, clitoris. Last show we were asking you, how do you say clitoris on your in your language? These things that they're not supposed to be spoken about, you know. So if these things are shameful, how do we think that the people in those bodies with those parts are feeling about themselves? Because yeah, we're talking about the harmful effects. There are physical effects, and I would go as far to say that the mental emotional effects are worse, because they also manifest in the physical effects, but they say no, don't talk about it. So we are asking you today, and in all those shows, is whether or not you know about female genital mutilation, you know, share the discussion. You never know who else can hear it, maybe give them a change of heart, because this doesn't only affect the girls and women that go through this, although them first. But Sister Yeama will tell us maybe in next week's show about, you know, people who have refused, men and women who have refused to subject their daughters to these practices, and how they are ousted, they are shunned from their communities. So it actually has a much wider, like further reaching impact. I would now like to take, I think, our last question for today, and allow all of you to feed back into that. Sister Mary is asking you, Sister Josephine, but Queens, you can also chime in. Is it true that some girls even hide, you know, to go for female genital mutilation, even after advocacy? So even though the likes of you amazing women are advocating, we are advocating that it comes to an end. Is it true that there are still girls who are hiding so they can go and have it done? Did everyone hear the question? I'm open to it. Yeah. Sister Yeama, would you like to, I don't know if you have any, would you like to respond? Sorry.
Yes, I think that's absolutely true. I mean, with all the good work that is going on around every part of the world against FGM, you can see the panelists here, you know, everybody in their various communities where they are doing fantastic work to raise awareness and campaign against FGM. And yet you still have women who are still taking their children. You still have girls who still prefer to go and have FGM done. And it's not surprising, because when you look at the discussion that we're having now, you know, like what Queen Angela just said there, you know, we are in a society where, you know, culturally, from some of the cultures that some of us come from, it's like you're not supposed to, one, talk about your genital organs, your genital parts. You're not supposed to talk. It's like a taboo subject. I mean, I remember when I came to the UK and started talking about FGM, nobody wanted to listen. You know, I moved into an area where I said, oh, hey, this is me. You know, I used to be a journalist. I campaign against this issue. I want to spread the word about it. And I'll get invited to events. Nobody will sign up to listen to me talk about FGM. Obviously, that's changed now. Not everybody's talking about it, but it's because you don't want to talk about it. And I think that's the problem we have, because women are not, you know, able to love themselves, even just as women, because the vagina is just seen in our culture. It's just for childbearing. You know, it's just there for you to have sex with your husband, get pregnant, and have a child. And you have some communities where the men only will sleep with the woman to get her pregnant. When she's pregnant, they have nothing to do with that woman. That woman then goes to carry that pregnancy, have the baby, take care of the baby, more or less do absolutely everything on her own. And then when that man wants to have another child again, or when he feels like just having sex again, he comes and have sex with her. So nothing of, you know, like, you know, loving that woman, or even that woman loving herself. So as a result, that is why we see, you know, when we talk about FGM, some women don't even talk about, you know, the vagina. And that's why we see in some cultures, even some women with their children, they will give silly names to vagina and penis, instead of actually saying, this is your vagina, this is your penis. They wouldn't say that, because it's like, oh no, you know, it's not something you should say. You know, don't say that to a child. But that's their vagina, that's their penis. And I think at the end of the day, that is why we are seeing girls in that situation going and having FGM done. Because just like Sister Josephine said, we are in a society where women are not saying no. We are slaves to our own culture. Women have embraced this culture that has been left over. I mean, it's there to be broken. And you see women say, well, I took my child to have FGM done because my great grandmother did it, my great auntie did. Come on, we're not living in that era anymore. This is the 21st century. This is damaging to children. Why would you want to say you took no justification whatsoever other than, well, my great grandmother did it, my great auntie did it, so I'm expected to do it. We need to stop saying no. We need to stop saying no to this practice, because at the end of the day, girls are being caught for their future husbands. Why are we allowing that to happen? Why should a child be caught for a future husband she's never met before? Why? Why does everything has to be about the men? Every abuse that women undergo, it's all about men. Every abuse that they face, virginity testing, where they test to see if the girl is a virgin, it's all about the men, so that they can make sure that girl is not sleeping around, she's virgin when she gets pregnant to that man. So it's time that women need to stop saying no. And that is why we are seeing young girls doing that. So I am not surprised with that question. It is happening because marriageability, the women think, oh, if I don't get it done, if I don't have my child mutilated, she's not going to get married. Let's put a stop to this. It has to end. Let's start saying no with the women. We are the ones agreeing. Let's say no.
Here. Wow. I'll come back to that. I love the spirit of that, and it's very true. But I first want to give Queen Najar you an opportunity to respond to the question and share any of your final thoughts and things.
Sister Yeama, what you said is so true. Thank you so much. Girls are getting cut for a future husband. But these men, after a while, they run off and they go and get babies with women who have not been cut.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So why are you getting cut? That's number one. So these mothers who are taking their daughters to get cut, they're doing it so their daughters can get married. That doesn't make sense, because the daughters may get married to somebody from a different culture, one that doesn't require girls to be cut. I'm just playing the devil's advocate here, okay? Yeah.
Please do.
So we need to go back to what is it that our girls, these girls who are going, and what Mary said is not, it's just not girls, it's also older women. Older women are also going for the cut. Why? Because of a lie which is being told, and it's been spread around Kenya. And I've heard about it before, and I'll just say it out here, okay? They are going back and saying that the clitoris causes female hysteria. And that if you cut off the clitoris, you won't be so hysterical as a woman. And a lot of women are believing it. Because if you cut off the clitoris, fine, there goes the hysteria. And this is a very old story, and it dates back to the 1800s, I think, because they did used to perform clitodermy on white women. And they said that it was so that they can stop being hysterical. So yes, our girls are being lied to by men that they should undergo the cut. And this is so weird because, you know, all these stories that you hear, they're coming from very weird places. They're coming like from men who are in church. They're coming from like men who are in parliament. You know, they're coming from all these men. Because let me tell you something. There is no woman who's going to listen to some poor, broke, non-leader man.
Yes.
Are you getting what I'm saying? So the men are in a leadership position, and that's why they're being listened to. So who are these men in these leadership positions? We need to ask them, what are they thinking? Because you can't be in church and preach and then turn around and say, oh, my girls need to, or my daughters need to be cut. You can't. You're being two-faced. You can't be in a leadership position and say that you are a human rights advocate or a member of parliament or whatever it is, and then turn around and say, oh, but my daughters and all those daughters over there, all those girls over there, you know, those ones over there in the village, I think they should be cut. And then your own daughters who live in the city, they're not cut. But you're saying that those ones should be cut. Why? Why are we doing this? So we need to look at these men and we need to ask the girls, so where did you get your story from? Because these stories are not coming from poor, broke men. Like I say, we never listen to poor, broke men. We don't. We don't. Because we tell them, you're broke, you're poor, you're uneducated, we're not going to listen to you. So who are these men who are telling our daughters and our women that we need to get our bits cut off? That's what we need to attack. Then the other thing which I say is this, that as women, we need to understand who we are as women, and that is woman with a W-O-M-B, and to understand that the womb does not begin with, you know those pictures where they show the womb from, they kind of cut off the clit area, so they just show the uterus and the fallopian tubes, and they deliberately cut off the clitoris area. But when they are showing the reproductive organs of the man, they're showing the whole penis. So we need to put the clitoris back into the picture. And we need to say that the clitoris is the gateway of the womb. We need to say this and to keep saying it until whoever it is out there who cut off the picture, the image, you know, can put it back in. So we need to keep telling our younger girls this. So they grow up and they have the knowledge and they can tell their older aunties and their older women, and they can say, no, I don't want to be cut because, do you know, if you cut me, I will never be able to have children properly. So don't cut me. And if you cut me, you're cursing me, and I'm telling you that you're cursing me. So the girls can talk back as well. And the young girls can talk back for the younger sisters as well. Because a lot of times, I find, okay, that older sisters, the ones who are 19, 18, 17, they have a lot of power over their mothers and over their fathers. They can go and say to the men in the face, I do not want my younger sister to be cut, and I refuse. So we need to start teaching these girls from 15, 16, 17, 18, so they can have a voice and they can have the knowledge necessary. Even if it means using a goat or a sheep or a camel or a cow as an example, because many of them are pastoralists. Tell them, go and take your female cows and cut off their clitorises first, and then see how those cows give birth. And then come back and do it to me as a human being.
Wow, that's powerful. And especially what you said about like you say, the older sisters or our older teen women. To me, that just reminds me that they're probably in a good position, as in they're not so young that nobody will listen to them. They're not so old that they've completely consumed whatever outer influences and conditions that they have had. So that power, that knowing is still there. So I absolutely agree that we need to inform and educate them. And I would also say more strongly, I like what you said about, you know, we need to ask these men, why are they saying this and why are they being hypocrite? And I would bring it back to actually what we're all saying in the sense is that, but it starts with us. Even if you know, things were done to us at some point, it is us through birth, we are the storytellers. We are the ones that say, even if we hear it from one man, our child, you know, and then we are the ones that perpetuate that story. We are the original storytellers. So we need to be the ones who come together. And like you said, Queen Najar, Queen Yeama, to really know ourselves, find out about the history, fine. But why I say start with us is because when we focus already, as Queen Najar was saying, actually you're all saying that these practices are done to benefit the men. So they already have enough focus. We need that. Now is the time where we need to focus on ourselves together. The women come together and support each other in speaking up in some ways, because we recognize that it's more difficult for some of us to speak up than others. That is true. And we recognize that some of us are more chauvinistic than the men we are complaining about. And we also recognize, and I personally know, that there are men out there, like I said, who have moved their families to save their girl children from undergoing this barbaric practice. So it's not necessarily all about them. We gain our strength from our solidarity as womb men, that maternal, that feminine energy. And this is what we talk about. The men are learning from us. Whilst we'll have, as Queen Najar was saying, men in leadership, trusted advisors, I think they're called, right? That we may listen to. It takes for us to reconfirm, you know, for us then to carry it forward. So I really strongly advocate for us to talk amongst ourselves. We don't have, I'll go to Sister Josephine now, and I'll share this one story now because it's so critical to what we were talking about, the importance, the significance of us educating ourselves, but more importantly, educating our children about their anatomy and giving them permission to talk openly, you know, in a respectful way about their anatomy. I read something just yesterday. It was a short story where the story was a child went to school and told the teacher at one point, told the teacher, I think in private at one point, that so a girl child said that her uncle licked her cookie, and the teacher wasn't quite sure what the child meant. But then the teacher said to the child, next time ask for another cookie. Then later on, the child comes, the mother of the child come to the school, arranges to speak to the teacher because the child has developed a rash around her vagina. And the mother mentioned the word cookie. So the teacher realized where the child got the word from and what was actually happening. So it's true. We need to arm ourselves as women, but we're talking about our children as well with the language. How can they ask for help if they don't even know the language that is going to get our attention? If we're telling them all these fluffy, you know, nonsensical words, we should just call our parts by what they are called. So I just wanted to leave that with you. Sister Josephine.
Yes.
We were just rounding up on this question that one of our live audience had asked us, and it was about, I put it here, that whether it was true that some girls, and include women, if they still go and hide specifically to go and undergo female genital mutilation. Do you know about that?
Yes, it's actually unfortunate that it's a big yes. We still have stigmatization. Girls, one, we have an issue of being marriageable. For me to be marriageable, I must go through this cut. We have issues of your age mate, your colleagues, despising you because you have not gone through the cut. So it is true, these girls are still, we still have some girls. We actually had a story going around in our community of a lady of 32 years, got married into the family, and the father or the father-in-law said, we don't allow daughters who are not cut. And this is a thumb, the career lady, but just to keep a man, she had to go through it. So, for me, I tell people, women, we need to develop self-love. We need to love ourselves. So that if a man loves me, then you need to love me even before you see what is in between my legs, whether I have that clitoris or not. Instead of these people subjecting us to cultural things so that to fit into their life. I don't think that is a love. So I think to end this practice, it is us women to love ourselves. Yes. And sing an endless song to our daughters, sisters, that it is wrong to go through FGM. If a man loves you, then he will love you for what makes you happy. I don't understand how can you go through FGM to suit into a specific man. That man don't love you if he wants you to go through such a pain. And it is not just that process of being cut. You also need babies tomorrow. You go through a lot of complication because of childbirth in the name of keeping that so-called man. So my final word is, it is happening, but I want to urge every woman, let us develop self-love. Let us love ourselves first before we love other people.
Thank you so much, Queen Josephine. A pleasure to have you on the platform and in the discussion today. Thank you to Queen Yeama, Queen Najar for joining us today. Also, we will be back at the same time next week, 1 p.m. GMT, 4 p.m. EAT, and all things being equal, back with Sister Maryam, so 9:30 a.m. NDT for those in Newfoundland. So thank you for joining us. Please keep talking about it. Please keep sharing about it. These things may not or are not pleasant to talk about it, but as I say, if you think it's not pleasant to talk about it, imagine how unpleasant it is to have to undergo such a barbaric practice that has life-lasting effects. So please do share, and thank you on behalf of myself and the panelists, and we will see you all next week, 1 p.m. Thank you, Queen Yeama, Queen Najar, Queen Josephine.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Goodbye all.